Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? All right. If there was any doubt that the powers that be over in Iraq are listening to my videos, it should be laid to rest today. Yes, some of the things I spoke about all of a sudden are a subject in the news today. Go figure. Could that be a quidinkadink? Maybe, but it's happened 7 other times, so we can have fun with it at least. That man right there, you see the picture, Maliki, he may or may not be in some trouble. We'll cover that here in just a moment. Before I get started though, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. If you are not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, and trust me, right now is the time to buy the shine. It is going on sale. Go to our friends over at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you're a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and you will get a free ½ ounce of silver. All right, so what am I talking about? Here's a couple of things. This is the fact that Iraq benefited from the latest OPEC Plus decision. Of course they will. So will all the other OPEC countries. So what was the meeting about? The reduction of production of oil. Think supply and demand. The less oil that's available out there in the market, the more you can ask for when people want to buy it. I also mentioned that Russia's the plus in OPEC Plus. I'm shocked that Russia and their allies are even managing to produce any kind of oil for America or any of their allies. It's really interesting to see. But then all of a sudden Russia said if they get new sanctions, they're going to reduce production even more or altogether stop. See, that's how you know they're listening to my video. I made that suggestion. But more importantly, what they want to know about is the agreement between Iran and the rest of the world when it comes to oil production. Any kind of oil that Iran produces is going to affect the OPEC countries. The rumor is that they're going to be doing about 1 million barrels per day. I'm talking about Iran. That definitely is going to affect the market. Next thing you know, the United States will be kissing Venezuela's butt and getting the oil from there next. We'll see. Alan Enzi told the news that Iraq will benefit from any reduction in oil exports. And the benefit will be for all OPEC Plus countries. And that by increasing the sanctions on Russia, there will be a further reduction in oil production. He pointed out that there is a study, if an agreement is reached with Iran, large quantities of oil will be presented on the market, which will affect and lead to the reduction in oil prices. Of course it will. Went on to say that the need for OPEC Plus to follow the policy of gradual reduction until information about the oil agreement with Iran arrives. But if the results of the agreement are negative, it may lead to the prevention of any exports and may cause a significant shortage in the market. You see that? Who said this? Who suggested this? I believe it was me. I said if I was him, I would just cut them off altogether. And the oil producing countries, OPEC Plus, agreed in their meeting on Monday to reduce the levels of production for the countries included in the agreement by the amount of 100,000 barrels per day. So this is going to be really interesting to watch this little tug of war and chess game. Oh, looky here. Things are starting to be much more clear about the politics over in Iraq. It says the Saudarists will return to the parliament to stop the framework. What are the consequences of the expected decision of the federal court? Well, what happened is the federal court, of course, once again, kicked the can down the road. They're not going to make a decision on this particular situation of having Sadr and his deputies return till September the 11th. The lead Supreme Court justice has met with some delegates from the United States, and I'm wondering how that whole conversation went. Somebody said, hey, Pimpy, in your opinion, who does the United States want to lead this country? I said, well, it's kind of hard to say, but I'm guessing Maliki, because Maliki's corrupt. And they like having corrupt politicians run countries because it's real simple to get them to act like puppets and do whatever the United States wants. So I figured they would not be a big fan of Sadr, especially since Sadr has spoken out against them on several occasions. said the coordinated framework stuck to the nomination of Sadani. And it goes on to say the expectation of the federal court would reject the claim to dissolve parliament next Wednesday, left the leader of the Sodarist movement one option, which is to return his current deputy that resigned from parliament and restore the rights of the largest blocs, including himself. It is a paper aimed at thwarting the efforts of the framework, whose officials plan to form a consensus government or even a majority government if efforts to attract Kurdish and Sunni representatives fail. And if that happens, then this would be really bad. If Maliki and his people are able to create a majority government, then they would start putting things into position that would guarantee them in power for a long time to come. Observers say, according to the report to the newspaper, that Sodarist movement's representatives can demand the return of their seats in parliament under the pretext that they were forced to resign because of the blocking third established by the Coordinated Frameworks group, which prevented them from achieving what they were seeking, was to build a stable national government. This step depends in the first place on whether the second call for dialogue by the Prime Minister Al-Kadhimi will succeed next Monday in agreeing on mechanisms to implement the only issue on which they are consensus, which is the dissolution of the parliament and the call for early elections. Halabasi offered, among other conditions, that the planned dialogue would set a date for early parliamentary elections and provincial council elections no later than end of next year. He also offered to elect the President of the Republic in addition to choosing a government with full authority agreed upon and trusted and reassured by the people and their political forces. Halabasi also demanded the reinterpretation of Article 76 of the Constitution related to defining the largest bloc and the abolition of the shameful circumvent of manipulating the provisions of this article, which occurred under political pressure after the 2010 election. Of course, this position is closer to the position of the Coordinated Framework, which says that the correct mechanism is the parliament meeting, the assignment of a new prime minister, and the formation of the government that will manage the transitional phase until the elections are held. Yeah, right. Once they get in power, there's no way in hell they're going to let it go. Meanwhile, the Sodarist movement demands the dissolution of the parliament first and the survival of the current caretaker government until elections are held. Observers believe that there are hidden intentions are what create a rift between the two parties in the first place. While the framework group wants to establish a national service government in order to use it to strengthen their electoral position and ensure the survival in power, the Sodarist movement wants to achieve a pre-victory by taking it to the elections to consolidate its position in order to say that they brought down the attempts of corruption groups to lead the government again. They expect a rejection by the courts of the lawsuit to dissolve parliament put in front of it more accusations against it that it is working in collusion with the other party. Yeah, we spoke about this. If the court refuses to approve the return of Sodarist MPs to their seats, these accusations will receive a broader degree of understanding. It is a situation the court may not wish to find itself in. Observers confirm that Sadr may now feel that he has given his opponents a free opportunity to become the largest bloc, to take the initiative instead of the negative, obstructive position they were in. And that beyond that, they took advantage of their new positions to increase pressure on him and sought to use all available weapons to defeat him, including the coup of his spiritual guide al-Harari against him, and even condemning and denying his affiliation with the Sadrs, meeting his father, Muhammad al-Sadr, and his uncle, Muhammad Baqi al-Sadr, which was like a bomb exploded under his seat. And when al-Sadr moved the protests to the parliament building, the verse turned against him, while he could easily win the call to dissolve the parliamentary from within, rather than protests that turned into a new source of condemnation. Observers believe that the prevailing perception among the framework groups is that the more they besiege al-Sadr and reject his demands, he will make more mistakes that will lead to him appearing as an arbitrary leader who does not know how to achieve his demands through the correct means. So there's a good game of chess going back and forth. So here's one of the issues about Sadr. It says right here, observers believe that Sadr rarely consulted when preparing his steps with Prime Minister Al-Kadhimi or the President Saleh, and he sometimes ignored them, although they remained closer to him than his opponents. He failed to take advantage of their constitutional power or their ability to conduct dialogue and search for solutions. So the article is long. You guys, I will leave the link down below. Come check it out. There's a lot more details than that, but these are the gist of it. Sauter can't be so stubborn, man. A great leader is going to listen to what others have to say. Here's another proof that they're listening to my videos. Remember yesterday I said, what the hell happened to the investigation into Maliki? How come we haven't heard anything about it? Well, lo and behold, look what's in the news today. New details about the judicial investigation of the leaks of al-Maliki. And Maliki, if it wasn't for his buddy being the leader of the Supreme Court, this man would have been in jail or already executed by now. Who knows? And here's why. An informed judicial source revealed on Tuesday new details regarding the investigation opened by the Supreme Judicial Council regarding the audio leaks of the leader of the State of Law Coalition, Maliki. In the article, it just goes on to say that the investigation is still open. It has not been shut. All necessary steps are being taken to assure that the right thing is done. They went on to say there are many specialized bodies participating in the investigation to reach the facts, and there is no pressure on the judicial authority close to this file. Rather, there is a legal process that the investigation authorities are going through to announce the results in the near future. So what had happened is an audio of a conversation that Maliki was having was leaked, and a blogger named Ali Fadel had published it. And here is what was said by Maliki. He touched on topics related to the Sunni Arab that were considered sectarian, in addition to describing the popular mobilization as a nation of cowards, while talking about arming clans and groups estimated at 20,000 fighters on the ground, asking him for support financially, logistically, and legally. And he promised to provide this in order to protect him from the leader of the Sauterist movement, Sauter, who wants to slaughter everyone, according to Maliki. The former prime minister also spoke about financial and administrative corruption in the PMF and about the fact that Barter organization led by Al-Murray receives financial salaries for his 40,000 plus people, while it does not have that number on the ground. Woo, in other words, look, if they're getting paid money to pay the salaries for 40,000 people, and Maliki is saying they got the money, but there's not that many people. They're lying so they could get more money. That's corruption. After these recordings, the leader of the Sauterist movement, Sauter, asked Maliki to surrender himself to those sought to refuge from the corruption and the judiciary authority. Here's where Maliki is screwed. The Technology for Peace team, the most famous Iraqi technical team, had confirmed the authenticity of the recording attributed to Maliki and said that this was not fabricated, noting in the report published earlier that despite the repeated denials of the owners of those recordings and his claim, I fabricated it by quoting and fitting excerpts from his voice to appear in this way, but the observations were made about the audio clips prove otherwise. In other words, the experts are saying this recording was not altered in any way, shape, or form. What Maliki said is treasonous, and according to the law, is punishable by death. So there you have it. We got something in the news covering what I spoke about yesterday, which is what the hell has happened to the whole case against Maliki for the things he said against Sauter. And there you have it. Anyways, the good thing about being politically connected in all the right places, there are other people out there like Hillary Clinton who could do no wrong. They can murder somebody in broad daylight and never go to jail. Maliki seems to be one of these people. I don't know how the Supreme Judiciary Courts are going to respond to this, but something tells me they're not going to follow the law. You guys let me know what you think. I look forward to your comments. I'll talk to you later. I'm out.